welcome to the deep dive. You know that feeling, right? Are we saving enough? There's just so much advice online, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, it really can be confusing. Information overload.
So today, we're cutting through that. This deep dive is about getting practical.
Exactly. Our mission is pretty simple. Help you understand why saving is so powerful and, crucially, how you can actually start doing it.
No matter where you're starting from financially.
Right. This isn't about deprivation, not at all. It's about empowerment, taking back control.
Think about someone like Sarah, the waitress we heard about.
Mm-hmm.
She just saved a little bit each week, consistently. And when her laptop died, well, she could just fix it. No panic.
That's it right there. That's financial freedom in a small, everyday situation. No debt needed for that unexpected bump.
So like having your own little shock absorber for life surprises.
Totally. Handles those emergencies without, throwing everything off track.
But it feels like it's more than just emergencies, yeah. Saving seems to unlock other things, too.
Oh, absolutely. It's the foundation for future goals. Big things, small things, maybe a down payment, travel, or just, frankly, less stress month to month.
Breathing room.
Exactly. Saving turns those maybe someday ideas into actual possibilities.
Okay, so if we want to start building this financial muscle, this control, where do we begin? What's step one?
Well, you can't really plan a journey without knowing your starting point, can you?
Makes sense.
So the very first crucial step is figuring out where your money is actually going right now, getting that clear picture.
Because you can't save more if you don't know where it's currently being spent.
Precisely. Awareness first. Everything else builds on that.
So how do we get aware? What's the process?
Okay, first up, calculate your total monthly income. All of it. Let's use an example. Say, Jason brings in $3,500 a month after tax. That's his starting number.
Right, the total amount coming in the door. The fuel, as you call it.
Exactly, the financial fuel.
Yeah.
Then comes the spending part, tracking your expenses.
Where's that fuel going?
Yep. Big stuff like rent or mortgage, obviously. But also food, transport, utilities, those sneaky subscriptions.
Oh, yeah, the subscriptions add up.
They really do. And importantly, the fun money or everyday spending. Coffee, snacks, lunches out.
And this requires real honesty, doesn't it? It's easy to underestimate those little things.
Oh, absolutely. We heard that people often underestimate their coffee habit by maybe 50%. A few dollars here and there seems small daily, but
Over a month, it's significant.
it really is. That's why a super practical tip is track everything, every single penny for one whole month.
Like an app? Or just old school notebook?
Either works. Plenty of good apps out there. Or
Yeah.
simple notebook. The tool doesn't matter as much as just doing it consistently.
Documenting it all, seeing it black and white, I imagine that can be eye-opening.
Almost always is. It gives you the facts, shows you your actual habits, not what you think your habits are, and you spot places to save you hadn't even considered.
Okay, so income figured out, expenses tracked for a month. We have the WA data. What's next?
Next is creating a budget that actually works for you. And I know the word budget, it can sound
Restrictive, like a diet for your money. All denial.
Exactly. That's the common perception. But try reframing it. Think of it less like restriction and more like a plan, a roadmap for your money.
A roadmap. I like that. It tells your money where to go.
Precisely. Including telling some of it to go into savings. It's about being intentional.
Okay, so how do we build this roadmap? Let's stick with Jason's example. Income is $3,500.
Right. Step 1, income identified, $3,500.
Got it.
Step 2, list and total up all those expenses you tracked. Let's say for Jason, after tracking, it comes to $2,250 for everything rent, food, transport, fun, utilities. All of it.
Okay, so $2,250 flowing out each month.
Yep. Step 3, simple math, see what's left over. So $3,500 minus $2,250, that leaves him with $1,250.
All right, that's the difference, the potential savings pot.
Potentially, yes. And that leads to step 4, which is critical. Set a realistic savings goal. Now, that full $1,250 might be too much right away.
Yeah, could feel like a huge leap. It could be discouraging if you miss it.
Exactly. So maybe Jason decides, okay, out of that $1,250, my goal this month is to save $500. Start with something achievable. Build that positive momentum.
Small wins fuel bigger ones.
Yeah.
Makes total sense.
It's about building the habit.
Okay, so we know where the money goes. We have a budget, a target. Now for the nitty-gritty. Practical ways to actually find those savings in daily life. How do we boost that number?
Right, this is where those small changes really make a difference over time. Let's talk food first. It's a big budget item for most people.
Food. Definitely an area I could tighten up. What works?
Meal planning is huge. Just knowing what you'll eat stops those impulse takeaways or expensive lunches.
It probably cuts down on waste, too.
Big time, which also saves money. Buying in bulk can help, but only if it makes sense for you if you'll actually use it all.
Right. Don't buy a giant bag of spinach if half will wilt.
Exactly. Use leftovers creatively. Shop your pantry first. It all adds up.
We heard about Mike, didn't we? Saved, what, $200 a month just by packing his lunch?
Yep. Simple change, big impact over the year. That's thousands saved just from lunch.
Wow. Okay, food makes sense. What about transportation? Costs there can sneak up, too.
For sure. If public transport is an option where you live, definitely look into it. Often cheaper than running a car, paying for gas, parking.
And maybe carpooling? Sharing rides?
Great option, splits costs. Or for shorter trips, walking, biking, good for the wallet, good for your health, less wear and tear on the car.
True. All those little savings accumulate. Okay, what about subscriptions? And entertainment, the fun stuff that costs.
Ah, the sneaky expenses. Time for a subscription audit. Seriously.
Lay it all out.
Yes. Streaming services, gym memberships you barely use, software. Ask yourself, am I really getting value? Be ruthless. Cancel what you're not using.
Financial housekeeping, basically.
Totally is. And look for cheaper or free fun. Libraries are amazing resources. Books, movies, sometimes museum passes.
Community events, local parks.
Exactly. Loads of low-cost or no-cost options if you look.
Good point. And shopping. Impulse buys. How do we manage that?
The 24-hour rule. Really effective. See something you want, especially if it's not essential. Wait 24 hours.
Let the impulse cool down.
Often you'll realize you don't actually need it or the desire just fades. It helps you separate real needs from those fleeting wants.
That's a good discipline. Simple, but probably powerful.
It can be. Also, think pre-owned. Clothes, furniture, electronics. You can find great stuff for way less. And yeah, look for discounts, but only on things you genuinely needed anyway. Don't let a sale trick you into spending more.
Be a mindful shopper, not just a bargain hunter. Okay, these are great strategies. Do we have some real-life examples? People who made this work?
Yeah, definitely. Think about Priya, the student. Super resourceful, used student discounts everywhere, cooked most meals, bought used textbooks.
Right.
And she tracked everything, rent, food, phone, transport. Even on her student budget, she managed to put aside about $200 a month.
That's $2,400 a year. Shows it's possible even when money's tight.
Absolutely. It's about being intentional. Then there's Carlos, working in a restaurant. His method was kind of cool. He used an app for tracking, but his main trick, every time he got a $5 bill as a tip, he just saved it. Didn't spend the fives, put them aside.
Just the fives. Sounds almost too simple.
Right. But it worked. In just 3 months, he'd saved over $800 just from those $5 bills. It was visual, easy, made saving feel tangible.
That's brilliant. A little mental hack. What about that 52-week challenge thing? Does that work?
Yeah, that's another good one for building the habit slowly. The idea is simple. Week 1, save $1. Week 2, save $2. Week 3, $3. All the way up to $52 in the last week.
So it starts really small and ramps up. Good for beginners.
Exactly. Very manageable at the start. Builds momentum, helps you get used to the act of saving regularly without feeling like a huge burden initially.
Okay, great. So we're using these strategies. Saving is happening. How do we, structure these savings effectively?
Yeah.
Where should the money go?
Well, a common guideline people talk about for your overall income is the 50-30-20 rule. It's not rigid, but a decent framework.
5-30-20. How does that break down?
Roughly 50% of your take-home pay goes towards needs. Housing, food, utilities, essential transport, the absolute must-haves.
Okay, the essentials.
Then maybe around 30% for wants. Entertainment, hobbies, dining out, clothes you like but don't strictly need, the quality of life stuff.
The fun extras.
And the remaining 20%, that's targeted towards savings and paying down debt, especially high-interest debt.
So needs, wants, and future you seems balanced.
It's a way to think about allocating things. Now, within that savings portion, a huge priority is building an emergency fund.
Right, we mentioned Sarah's laptop, the safety net.
Exactly. It's so critical. This protects you from life's curveballs. Start small again. Maybe aim for $500 or $1,000 first. Get that initial win.
Build confidence.
Then work towards the bigger goal, which is usually recommended as 3 to 6 months worth of essential living expenses.
3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
That can sound like a lot.
It can take time, definitely. But imagine the peace of mind. Job loss, medical issue, major car repair. That fund means you don't automatically have to go into debt.
It buys you breathing space and options. Protects your progress.
Invaluable, truly.
Okay, emergency fund is key. What else helps structure savings?
Setting clear financial goals. Give your savings a job, a purpose.
Not just saving for saving's sake.
It's less motivating that way for most people, but saving for something specific. I want $1,000 for that trip in 3 months, or pay off this credit card by December, or save for a down payment on a car.
Makes it tangible. Gives you a reason to say no to that impulse buy.
Precisely. Goals give you direction. They make the why behind your saving really clear, which helps with making those daily choices.
Destination in mind makes the journey easier. Okay, we've covered a ton on how to save. What about the other side? Common mistakes people make, pitfalls to avoid.
Oh, there are definitely a few common traps. A big one is just living beyond your means, spending more than you earn month after month.
Easy to do, especially with credit cards, right?
Very easy. Credit can mask the problem for a while, but you're digging a hole, often with high interest digging it deeper. So that constant awareness of income versus outgoings is fundamental.
Got to keep that balance in check. What's another classic mistake?
Not tracking spending, we keep coming back to it because it's that important.
Can't manage what you don't measure.
Exactly. If you're flying blind, how can you possibly know where to cut back? You're just guessing. Tracking gives you the data to make real changes.
Right. Flying blind financially is not a good strategy. Another pitfall.
Impulse buying. We talked about the 24-hour rule, but yeah, those checkout displays, the online ads, they're designed to tempt you.
Got to build that muscle to resist.
Constantly revisiting. Is this a need or a want? Can it wait? That pause is crucial.
Okay, and a final common mistake.
Just having no plan at all. No budget, no specific goals, just sort of hoping you'll save some money.
Winging it financially.
Yeah. It rarely works effectively. You end up overspending without realizing it, and savings don't really materialize consistently. The budget is the roadmap, the goals are the destination. You need both.
Well said. A plan keeps you focused. So wrapping this deep dive up, the big takeaway for me is that saving isn't really about punishment or deprivation.
Not at all. It's about making conscious choices, informed choices. It's about gaining control, creating freedom, opening up future possibilities.
Yeah, empowerment. Hopefully everyone listening now feels they have a better handle on why it matters, how to figure out their own picture, build a budget, and use some real strategies.
And the key thing is just start. Seriously.
Don't aim for perfection immediately.
No, start small. Consistency beats intensity here. Tiny steps, done regularly, build that habit and add up significantly over time. Way better than trying a huge change, failing, and giving up.
Build the muscle gradually. Okay, so a final thought for everyone listening. What's just one small thing, one tiny adjustment you could try this week?
Yeah, what's one step, however small, you could take today or tomorrow? Track spending for just one day. Skip one bought coffee. Set a micro goal, like saving $10 this week.
Something achievable to just get the ball rolling towards better financial well-being.
Exactly. That first small step can make all the difference.
All right, let's move on to strategy number 10, which involves actively cultivating the powerful skill of visual thinking directly in English, instead of relying on the intermediary step of associating an English word with its often imperfect translation in your native language. Consciously and deliberately train yourself to connect the English word directly with a vivid mental image, a tangible feeling, a relatable real-world scenario, or even a dynamic action. For instance, when you encounter or recall the English word apple, make a concerted effort to bypass the mental retrieval of its equivalent in your native tongue. Instead, actively picture a crisp, round fruit, perhaps with a vibrant red or green skin. Imagine the satisfying crunch as you take a bite, and perhaps even evoke the sweet or slightly tart taste on your tongue. This direct and sensory association bypasses the need for linguistic mediation through your native language and helps your brain to process and understand English concepts on a more immediate and intuitive level. You can actively practice this technique by consciously observing the objects that surround you in your daily life and immediately naming them aloud or silently in English, actively visualizing their key characteristics, their color, shape, size, texture, and function, without allowing your native language to intrude on this direct cognitive connection. Our 11th highly effective strategy focuses on significantly Strengthening your active recall of English vocabulary and grammatical structures. Practice active recall and strategically implement spaced repetition techniques, consciously thinking in English throughout the entire process. Instead of passively rereading your notes, simply glancing at vocabulary lists, or passively reviewing grammar rules, actively challenge yourself to retrieve English words, common phrases, or specific grammar rules directly from your memory without initially consulting your learning materials. When you are actively reviewing vocabulary items, make a deliberate effort to define the English word using other English words. Construct original and contextually relevant English example sentences, and consciously think of related English synonyms and antonyms. Furthermore, integrate spaced repetition systems, SRS, like the highly effective Anki into your learning routine, but crucially, ensure that you are actively engaging with the English content by thinking in English as you review existing flashcards and create new ones. This active cognitive engagement, forcing your brain to retrieve and manipulate English directly, significantly reinforces the direct neural link between the English language and the underlying concepts in your mind, leading to more robust and readily accessible knowledge. Strategy number 12 encourages you to actively cultivate the habit of telling yourself stories and constructing narratives entirely in English. These mental narratives don't need to be elaborate, intricately plotted tales. They can begin as simple recounts of the events of your day, imagined hypothetical scenarios, or even concise summaries of books you have recently read, or movies you have watched in English. The very act of consciously stringing together English words and phrases in a meaningful and sequential manner to create a narrative forces your brain to engage with the language on a deeper level, promoting more fluid, connected, and natural English thinking. Make a deliberate effort to focus on incorporating descriptive language into your mental stories and consciously expressing your thoughts, feelings, and observations directly in English as you narrate these internal scenarios. Our 13th highly engaging strategy involves actively and deliberately engaging with your existing hobbies and personal interests through the medium of the English language. If you derive pleasure from cooking, actively seek out English language recipe websites, explore English cooking channels on video platforms, and consciously think in English as you read and follow the instructions. If you are an avid enthusiast of gaming, make a conscious effort to play video games with the audio and text settings set to English, and actively try to think about the game mechanics, your strategic decisions, and your interactions within the game world using English vocabulary and terminology. By strategically connecting the English language to activities that you already find intrinsically enjoyable and engaging, you not only make the learning process more motivating and less like a chore, but also create significantly more natural and contextually relevant opportunities for authentic English thinking to occur. Strategy number 14 emphasizes the crucial importance of actively learning English idioms and common idiomatic expressions within their natural linguistic context, and striving to understand their intended English meaning directly without relying on direct word-for-word equivalents in your native language. Instead of attempting to find often misleading or inaccurate literal translations in your native tongue, actively train yourself to grasp the figurative meaning, the underlying connotations, and the specific situations in which these colorful and often culturally specific expressions are typically used by native English speakers. Make a conscious effort to create vivid mental images or relatable scenarios associated with these idioms to aid your understanding and recall. For example, when you encounter the common idiom break a leg, actively picture a theatrical setting and understand it as a way of wishing someone good luck before a performance rather than attempting to analyze its literal components. Our 15th highly practical strategy encourages you to actively and consciously start making simple, everyday decisions entirely in English. When you are faced with choices throughout your day, such as deciding what to eat for your next meal, selecting what clothing to wear, or determining which route to take to your destination, make a deliberate effort to mentally run through your options and weigh the pros and cons using English vocabulary and sentence structures. This seemingly small and easily integrated practice helps to seamlessly integrate English into your routine decision-making processes, gradually making English thinking a more automatic and natural response in practical, real-world situations. Strategy. Number 16 involves cultivating the valuable metacognitive habit of actively reflecting on your own English language learning process entirely in English. Consider maintaining a dedicated journal written in English, or simply making conscious mental notes in English about the specific concepts you have recently learned, the particular aspects of the language you currently find challenging, and the tangible progress you perceive yourself to be making over time. The very act of articulating your learning journey, your successes, and your struggles in English helps to solidify your understanding of the language from an English-centric perspective and encourages you to think about the nuances of language, learning within an English linguistic framework. Our 17th highly effective strategy suggests strategically designating specific times or particular tasks during your day where you consciously and strictly commit to using only the English language for all your cognitive and communicative processes. For example, you might decide that for a dedicated hour each day, you will consciously strive to only think, speak aloud to yourself, and write in English, regardless of the specific topic or activity. Alternatively, you might choose to handle all your online interactions, such as writing emails, participating in forums, or engaging on social media, exclusively in English during a set period. Creating these dedicated English-only zones forces your brain to rely solely on its English resources, significantly accelerating the development and strengthening of your ability to think directly in the language. Strategy number 18 encourages you to actively and attentively pay close attention to the way that native English speakers naturally express their thoughts, articulate their opinions, and structure their sentences, and then consciously strive to mimic these patterns in your own English thinking and speaking. When you are actively listening to engaging English language podcasts or watching insightful interviews with native speakers, make a deliberate effort to notice the subtle nuances of how they organize their ideas, how they express their perspectives on various topics, and how they seamlessly transition between different points in a conversation. Consciously, try to incorporate these observed patterns of thought and expression into your own internal English monologue and your spoken English. Communication